Hello and welcome to Somerville Neighborhood News. I'm Mark Billiker.
And I'm Yvette Wilkes. Today is November 12th. Somerville Neighborhood News is a community service production of SCAT TV put together by staff, interns, and your neighbors. We bring you the news every 2 weeks right here on Channel 3 and on our website, scatvsomerville.org, where you can watch the news in your language.
With just a few clicks, you can choose to see this newscast with subtitles in one of 44 languages. Tonight, our reporters bring you stories on the waste transfer station, a new union up at Tufts, the Lincoln Park renovation, a health fair, and a film festival. And we also take a look at the question of whether or not Somerville has too many events.
But first, let's look at the big news from the past 2 weeks. After more than 30 years in law enforcement, Somerville's police chief, Tom Pasquarello, will be stepping down on December 1st. Captain Charles Femino will fill in for him while the search is on for a permanent replacement. Developments just keep getting announced here in Somerville. A 19-unit building over at the Patsy's Pastry Shop site, and right here in Union Square, Mike's Automotive has been sold to an international developer. We plan to look into these and other developments in future shows. Another big development wasn't about buildings. It was the municipal elections on November 5th. Somerville will have 5 new aldermen next year. That means almost half the board is made up of new people. For complete election results, go to the city's website, www.cisomerville.ma.us. Our first story is a happy one. The waste transfer station that has been an eyesore and a nose sore has been taken down. Kami Woods has more.
At the end of October, a wall-breaking ceremony was held to celebrate the demolition of Brick Bottom's waste transfer station near the McGrath Highway. The event was joined by the mayor and a few friends who are notorious for their destructive habits, like Wreck-It Ralph.
I want to welcome you all to what will be the former site of the incinerator and transfer station in about 24 hours as we begin taking a wrecking ball to this somewhat of an iconic relic of our urban past, but nothing about the future. So, quick, someone give me a sledgehammer now because I'd love to bring this monstrosity down myself as we speak.
The structure has been in Somerville for 5 decades and is considered an eyesore. It was originally built as an incinerator, which caused environmental problems for local residents.
Well, growing up in the neighborhood, I remember that the incinerator really didn't have the appropriate waste removal devices, for instance, scrubbers. There used to be a huge smokestack there that would burn, and there were no scrubbers in it. So basically you would see burning paper. If the air conditions were right, you'd see there literally would be little pieces of burning trash like being blown in the wind throughout the neighborhood. As a lot of the folks called it, it was sort of Somerville's Mount Vesuvius.
Herb Chambers, who owns the Mercedes-Benz dealership next door, also attended the ceremony.
I purchased that facility there about 21 years ago, and for the last 21 years we've been complaining to the mayor about the smell and flies and rats and everything else that go with a facility like this. And we have a major investment next door, and we're so thrilled to see this thing go away.
Located right next to the highway, this area is known as the gateway to Somerville. That means the waste transfer station is one of the first buildings that visitors see.
You had slaughterhouses on the other side of the highway, and you had, an incinerator here. So naturally, it was not, an inviting entry to the city, and we're working on changing that.
We've been thinking about this for years and years and years, and the mayor's done great work to make it happen. And I think the community is ready to step in and help make something happen here in this space.
The demolition of this waste transfer station is only one of the many changes bringing new life into Somerville. Reporting for Somerville Neighborhood News, I'm Kami Wood.
It will be really interesting to see how that site develops.
Next up, youth reporter Marcelo Brosiner looks at the rebooting of the Lincoln Park renovation. Remember a year ago? There was an uproar because the city was moving ahead without getting enough input from residents.
Originally, the city planned a $2.7 million upgrade with artificial turf fields and a possible ice rink. But some balked at the turf, and almost everyone complained at the lack of community participation. The city decided to reboot the process. The October 30th meeting was the first step. Soccer players and their parents turned out in force.
Can you explain what's going on right now?
Right now we're trying to figure out how the fields are going to be and like when we turf it, how everything's going to be.
So I see a map down there. What are you doing to the map right now?
Right now we're just having an overview of the whole like park, the basketball field, the baseball field, and the soccer field, like how it's going to be when we turf it.
Can you tell us about the controversy of whether there should be turf or not?
Well, there's a lot of people that are like not wanting it to be turf, but then there are like kids like us who are soccer players and like soccer parents who want it to be turf so we could play better and, you know, practice in better fields and get better.
Spin the basketball court this way and then gain the space.
Like all the way that way.
You get the three fields, it'd be three fields because you can have the U14 and the U12 already marked on the turf.
Right, and
then do a U8 over here because you don't
But
have...
not everyone wants Lincoln Park to be strictly athletic fields.
Well, I wrote lots of places to sit in the shade. So, but I will add trees and planting.
And also like park-like plantings.
This is one of the largest parks in the city, one of the largest public open spaces for the city. And it could be many things. And so before we start to come up with any sort of designs for or preconceived ideas for what this renovation should entail, we need to hear from the people. We don't have an agenda pushing one thing over the other. We've heard from the community. We recognize that the whole park needs to have, you know, things done to it, and so we want to hear what those people's ideas are. Important that you think about, you know,
I'm thinking about my solar panels.
what the park will be, but it's also important that we get some new ideas.
Community garden, yeah.
The city plans to present the results to the public on December 2nd. Lots of ideas are being tossed around. Balancing competing visions will not be easy.
We'll stay on top of this issue and keep you informed. Across the country, universities are saving money by increasingly relying on part-time faculty. In response, these part-time employees, called adjuncts, have been unionizing. Tufts adjunct professors just joined their ranks. Reporter Peter Balalan-Rosen brings us the story.
With their union only a month old, Tufts adjuncts and administrators are gearing up for negotiation. Nan Levinson has been a part-time lecturer at Tufts for over 20 years. She was a member of the union organizing committee.
We had a vote in September, and we won over 2-1 in favor of. Before, there's no guarantee that things couldn't be taken away from us. And basically the administration said, trust us. And frankly, we didn't.
Unionized environment is going to be different than the kind of environment that we had in place before.
A lot of my colleagues have second and third jobs, often teaching jobs. They'll rush from a class here to a class someplace else just to make ends meet. And in fact, all of us have to have some other source of income to be able to live on this. It's just simply not enough. 4 years ago, when the economy tanked kind of across the board, pay was frozen for about a year, and it got lifted for everybody else after that, and not for us.
Today, almost half of all university faculty are adjuncts, according to government statistics. At Tufts, about 1/3 of the faculty is part-time. Those professors make an average $6,000 per course, with some making as little as $3,000 and select departments paying up to $10,000. However, even though colleges are using more of the cheaper adjuncts, tuitions have continued to rise steadily.
The administration has acknowledged us as a union, says it will, and will negotiate with us.
Negotiations with the union will require additional administration on our part, additional hours and time and effort. And we do, I think, quite naturally have concerns.
With a union, we have a more even playing field. We have a basis, a standing from which to discuss our teaching lives here.
What we're nervous about, as students at least, is that what the administration will do is make the negotiations during a school break, which is what they did with the janitors union. They had the contract negotiations over the summer, so then there weren't as many students around to be paying attention and to know what was going on. So that's kind of the biggest role that students can have as the main consumers in the university, is we can put pressure on the administration.
I don't know how quickly this will happen, when negotiations will start, but we'll start talking about our next contract. And it could go on quickly and constructively and happily. It could take a very long time.
Reporting for Somerville Neighborhood News, this is Peter Balanon-Rosen.
Tufts part-timers aren't the only ones with a union in the Boston area. Suffolk and Emerson have already organized, and there are others following their examples. We'll be watching to see how these negotiations go.
Next up, Somerville hosted the first annual Boston International Kids Film Festival.
I'm here on the campus of Tufts University, where the Filmmakers Collaborative is hosting a series of workshops on media literacy for kids. It's part of their first annual Boston International Kids Film Festival.
So Filmmakers Collaborative has actually been in existence for about 25 years, and what it does is provide fiscal sponsorship for independent filmmakers nationwide.
Why are you focusing on youth for this film festival?
Throughout the years, the membership has gotten younger and younger.
The workshops for kids at Tufts dealt with film production, media literacy, and also warned of the dangers kids face in our media-saturated culture. Meredith Walker, a former network TV producer, addressed a group of girls about her project called Smart Girls.
So that's a real challenge. It's a real challenge to try and figure out what is my truest self when I'm just getting all these messages.
And why is it so important to talk to girls about media?
Well, we didn't grow up with this stuff. And so it's very easy for us to move on from who we were and grow up and change and evolve without all these constant reminders of maybe something we did that was really goofy or whatever it might be, or maybe even mean when we were younger. And not only that, not only just how accessible everything is and how much media is out there, but there are a lot of ways where girls are in this presence of older people because they're all online. Older people who may or may not be considerate of your age and your needs. And so we really like to talk about it and kind of help remind them not to accept being treated in a way that's less than they deserve.
The other part of this film festival are the films at Somerville Theater. Where did the films come from?
The films came from all over the world. It was overwhelming, the amount of films that we received and the quality of films that we received.
One of the films came from Somerville. It was produced at SCAT TV by youth from the Books of Hope program at the Mystic Learning Center. It's called Everyone Has an Accent, So Why Is Mine a Problem?
And how has the youth responded to be part of this collaboration? Have they been really excited about it?
They are so excited, they talk about it, and they're just so proud.
It is very, very important that there are festivals specific to children, because that is where you learn the love of filmmaking. And that is where you learn the foundation of what goes into filmmaking, and you find your passion for it. Most of the other filmmakers, as well as myself, started at like age 12. So this is when it all begins.
Now that so many people have video cameras on their cell phones, everyone can get into the act.
Yes, we invite Somerville's youth filmmakers to join SCAT TV. Next, News Director Jane Regan covered the second annual health fair up at Clarendon Hill.
On October 26th, the Haitian Coalition and its partners sponsored the second annual Community Health Fair at the Clarendon Hill Housing Development. Organizers made sure that Somerville's diverse population would find people who spoke some of the city's many languages. Residents came from all over to sign up for and receive free health services and to learn about the organizations working to make the city and its residents more healthy.
Today we're providing cleanings and dental hygiene evaluations and referrals, and we're working with one of the students from Harvard Dental School is helping us. There are prevention methods that we can take in all avenues of health. So they have the flu shots, we have the preventive dental services and other, I can't remember what else is going on here. I know it's a lot, but just, nutrition and food and everything. So I think that the patients get an education and they become aware, and they are also introduced to other resources in the community that they can access after the health fair is finished.
Ça fait son bon bagage lié parce que mien service yo clean dam. Yeah, et va payer me payer. Ça fait un plaisir.
Do you like French fries? Yeah. Do you know how calories they have? 500. And about this one? 1700. Wow, something wow.
This is about nutrição, é sobre nutrição, como afeta a nossa saúde. Então, nós temos que escolher com sabedoria o que comer e evitar os riscos de colesterol, de doenças cardíacas, câncer. E esse aqui que ninguém supõe sobre, as pessoas não têm ideia sobre os cafés, são deliciosos. Simplesmente 640 calorias. Porque se começarmos a pensar sobre a nossa alimentação, um pouquinho de, como é que se diz? Um pouquinho de disciplina e informação vai mudar muito a vida.
Nous piquons doit être mon pour nous prendre un petit goût de sang pour nous contrôler le cholestérol total avec sucre. Nous avons toujours prendre précaution pas manger un peu de graisse, surtout graisse qui n'a aucun médicament pour le cholestérol. Toujours prendre médicament, j'en ai perdu pour prendre là. Nous rencontrons un pile monde qui a un problème de tension. Nous rencontrons un pile monde qui a un problème de cholestérol. Nous rencontrons un pile monde qui a un problème de sucre. Nous avons dit maladie chronique ça yo un pile problème dans la communauté. D'autant plus que habitude alimentaire moun yo qui complètement différent de leur dans le pays ou bien qui complètement habitude de fonctionnement yo qui pas même gens avec gens oteyé dans le pays pa yo capable yon nan raison qui expliquer et fait maladie ça yo.
I'm Rachel Plitch. I'm the coordinator at Shape Up Somerville. We're a program in the city's health department, and we work to make Somerville a healthier place to live, work, play, raise a family. One of our programs is called Safe Routes to School, where we help kids walk and bike instead of getting driven. And so these are really great to pair with that program. Nice. Do you like the parks in the city? So this map is so cool because it has every single park all over the city. And then this one measures how many steps you take every day, so that's kind of cool. Thank you. Yeah, of course. Thanks. Bye, guys. Bye. Thank you.
Giving people access to some basic services and also information on how they can be more proactive in their own health care. Those were the goals of this health fair. Reporting for Somerville Neighborhood News, I'm Jane Regan.
With all the changes in healthcare, it's great that local organizations can provide services like these once in a while.
Dan Atkinson, editor of the Somerville Journal, fills us in on the most important issues he'll be following this week.
Hello, this week in the Somerville Journal we'll be looking at a bunch of things happening. We're going to be covering the ongoing meeting that's happening right now to look at how the aldermen will be changing their succession in the board when a member steps down. We'll also be checking out a new brewery that is hoping to open up on Somerville Avenue, and we'll get the latest on why exactly the facade of the Social Security building fell down and caused a ruckus in Davis Square. If you want to follow along, we're at wickedlocal.com/Somerville, and we always welcome comments. You can either email them to me at datkinson@wickedlocal.com or give me a call at 617-629-3385.
Fluff Festival, Oktoberfest, Honk. Did you know that recently the Board of Aldermen discussed whether or not Somerville has too many events?
Yes, I heard that. Well, our reporters talked to people in Union Square.
do you think there are too many events here?
No, I don't. I'm very happy with all the activity. Every time I come down to Union Square, there's something going on, and I've never thought, well, I wish this wasn't happening.
I do notice it because right where I live, they close down these two streets and make them go two ways instead of one way.
Does that bother you in any way?
Yeah, because I have to go to bed early and there's all this traffic. I hear the cops whistling and trying to move the traffic.
On Broadway, I know they do a lot of things there. It's better because more people go around that area and they're able to see that events are going on and show up. Whereas if it's at a park, they don't really see it.
Well, the traffic backs all the way up, all the way to McGrath Highway. Yeah, so it's probably an hour to get from there to where I'm standing now, which is the center of Union Square.
So you would prefer that those events be moved into parks where it wasn't obstructing traffic?
Parks, parking lots, Prospect Hill, where there ain't so much traffic.
I wish they would close the streets down more. It's probably a little inconvenient, but if it's on the weekend, people could, they could drive around Union Square.
The events are what make the city what it is. It's what makes it better for its people, and we enjoy that.
To find out what local businesses might think, we invited Stephen Mackey from the Chamber of Commerce into our studio.
Hi, Steve. Thanks a lot for being here with us today. As I told you earlier, we've noticed that one of the things a lot of people around Somerville are talking about is this question of whether Somerville has too many events. Well, as you saw, we went out in the street and we talked to folks around Union Square, but I thought it would be great to get the point of view of the Chamber of Commerce and then of yourself as a longtime Somerville resident. So what do you think? Are there too many events? What's the upside? What are the downsides? What do you think?
Well, thank you, Jane, for having me. It's great to be here. It sounds like the city might be having too much fun, which is not a bad problem to have. And when you look at it, it's really quite remarkable that that this, and I don't want to belittle it, but this is the kind of problem we're dealing with, and so there are good problems and there are bad problems, but not to undermine it. But there's a great, the Chamber has been interested for a long time in helping to promote the idea of street festivals and also to share the streets generally every day in terms of automobiles, bicycles, and pedestrians. So with that being said, there are some great events going on, very popular, help to make Somerville very popular on the metropolitan scene. But it does impose problems for some people. The commuter that has to be somewhere, the backyard neighbor that would like to enjoy a little more quiet, and also businesses. It's, a lot of people think that if you bring thousands of people into a square, they make all this money. Well, some of them might make something, but it can interfere with a lot of businesses and the regular flow of business.
Now, I'm one of those people that would have thought that all the people coming in for the Fluff Festival or for that big concert, I'm one of the people who would have thought, no, they're all going to go into the restaurants, they're going to spend even more money. So I'm actually surprised about that. Well, that brings me to my second question. A lot of times the city ends up having to spend the money that it takes to shut down those streets. So they might have to put on a couple of police officers on overtime. Now, how do we justify public spending for these kind of events if the private sector isn't even seeing a bump in their profits?
Right. Well, one of the things is the Chamber was involved in the beginning of Oktoberfest, and we pay for all the details and everything and all the city expenses. But we understand that some businesses, when you have the streets crowded, you don't get the business into the counter or into the restaurant. So business slows down. For some of them, it even stops. Sometimes the more popular festival, can really just shut off counter transactions. So value, though, is in developing this identity and character and feel for a place and doing it in the street. And that's great value. We can all discuss probably forever as to exactly how much that's worth, but it is of great value to you know, give people the idea that Somerville is a great place to be, it's a great community, and it can have fun.
So I guess just to finish up, because we're running out of time, what do you think we should do going forward? Should we just keep adding events to the calendar? How can we avoid the kind of a little bit of a, you know, disagreement or sometimes conflict that we see sometimes on the blog posts?
Right. Well, some of the issues in the city can be very complicated and then end up involving federal and state law. This one is pretty much, Somerville has the tools, local communities have the tools to make regulations so that they can arrive at a balance. And the key at getting to the balance is to have government people at the table, residents and businesses, and have that dialogue going. So it's a very fair question. It's a question that should be discussed and debated. And you know, I don't think right now there are too many, but you know, you can live and learn, and you can adjust, and you can make changes. So the dialogue's good, the question's good.
All right, well, thank you very much for coming in and speaking with us today.
Thank you, Jane. It's great to be here.
Thanks for joining us. We'll be back on November 26th.
Remember that you can watch Somerville Neighborhood News anytime on our website, where you can view the news with subtitles in 44 different languages.
If you want to get involved, or if you have any story ideas, drop us a line at news@scatchtvsomerville.org. All right, I think we have a wrap.